Hi, MAGA. My MAGA friends. I'm just kidding. I'm not friends with MAGA people. No, thank you.
Right out the gate, we see the classic liberal superiority complex on full display. She can't even say MAGA without dripping condescension and immediately distancing herself from half the country. This is the typical leftist cultural snobbery. The casual dismissal of millions of Americans as people she wouldn't associate with reveals the fundamental elitist mindset that has infected the left. These are the same people who preach tolerance and inclusivity while openly expressing contempt for anyone who doesn't share their worldview. The irony is staggering. She's about to spend several minutes complaining about hate while opening with pure disdain for people based solely on their political beliefs. This is the progressive bubble in action. They genuinely believe their political opinions make them morally superior human beings, which gives them permission to dehumanize anyone who disagrees with them.
And I was just wondering, why you guys hate everything? Why do you hate America? Why are you cool with just sitting and watching the Democratic Republic burn to the fucking ground? And you're not even watching, you're cheering it on. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Notice how she frames this. She's been driving around, thinking, which in liberal speak means marinating in her own confirmation bias and working herself into an emotional frenzy. This is how the leftist mind operates. Instead of seeking out different perspectives or trying to understand opposing viewpoints, they create elaborate internal narratives about their political opponents' motivations. She hasn't talked to any conservatives, hasn't read their actual positions, hasn't engaged with their arguments. She's just been sitting alone, building straw men in her head and then getting angry at them. This is the foundation of liberal political engagement, emotional reasoning based on caricatures rather than intellectual engagement with actual ideas. She's accusing conservatives of hating America while simultaneously supporting policies that undermine American sovereignty, traditions, and constitutional principles. Let's break this down. Conservatives want secure borders, liberals call that racist. Conservatives want constitutional governance, liberals call that fascist. Conservatives want traditional American values, liberals call that bigotry. Conservatives want economic policies that made America prosperous, liberals call that exploitation. At every turn, it's the left that seeks to fundamentally transform America into something unrecognizable, yet somehow conservatives are the ones who hate America. The left has spent decades attacking American history, American culture, American institutions, and American values, but when conservatives resist this cultural revolution, suddenly they're the ones who hate the country.
We love to suffer, because you're gonna also suffer under this authoritarian, fascist fever dream.
Here we see the complete inversion of reality that defines the modern left. They're calling Trump supporters fascist while simultaneously supporting censorship of opposing viewpoints, weaponization of federal agencies against political opponents, indefinite detention without trial for January 6 protesters, coordination between government and big tech to suppress dissent, and the use of lawfare to eliminate political competition. But somehow conservatives are the fascists. The term authoritarian is particularly rich coming from people who demanded vaccine mandates, supported lockdowns that destroyed small businesses while enriching corporations, and cheered when truckers had their bank accounts frozen for protesting government overreach. They've turned the language of political resistance into a weapon against actual resistance to government power.
You just pretend that you are patriots and you love the Constitution and you love America, but everything you do and say just kind of says the opposite.
This woman is literally describing the Democratic Party while projecting it onto conservatives. Who's been trying to pack the Supreme Court? Democrats. Who's been ignoring immigration law? Democrats. Who's been weaponizing the justice system? Democrats. Who's been advocating for abolishing the Electoral College? Democrats. Who's been pushing to eliminate the filibuster? Democrats. Who's been trying to federalize elections in violation of the Constitution? Democrats. But somehow conservatives are the ones who don't respect law and order. The cognitive dissonance required to make this argument while supporting a party that openly campaigns on changing fundamental American institutions is breathtaking.
So I was like, why do they hate America so much? How'd that happen? Why do you hate so many different kinds of people? Why do you hate women? Why do you hate single women?
Just you.
Why do you really hate single women who have cats?
And here we get to the heart of the liberal victimhood complex. Everything is about hate. Disagreeing with feminist ideology means you hate women. Pointing out that single women vote overwhelmingly for bigger government means you hate single women. Making jokes about cat ladies means you literally hate people who own cats. This is how liberals shut down any criticism of their coalition, by reframing every political disagreement as personal hatred. Conservatives don't hate single women, they recognize that single women, as a demographic group, tend to support policies that expand government power and reduce individual liberty. This is simply an observable political reality, but stating it becomes hate in the liberal framework. The cat lady thing is particularly telling because it represents the broader concern about a society where traditional family formation is declining and being replaced by surrogate relationships that don't contribute to social stability or cultural continuity.
Forget if they have fucking blue hair. You're gonna stay up at night. You can't even get past it. I don't know why. They don't have nothing to do with you.
Oof.
I don't get it.
The blue hair comment reveals how completely she misses the point. Conservatives don't care about hair color, they care about what blue hair represents in the current cultural context. It's a visual signifier of adherence to progressive ideology, which includes support for policies that conservatives believe are destructive to society. When someone displays symbols of an ideology that seeks to undermine your values, institutions, and way of life, of course you're going to view them as politically opposed to your interests. This isn't personal hatred, it's recognition of ideological conflict. But liberals can't conceive of principled political opposition, so they interpret everything through the lens of personal animosity. What we're witnessing in this video is the total intellectual and emotional bankruptcy of modern liberalism laid bare. This woman represents millions of Americans who have been so thoroughly indoctrinated by progressive ideology that they literally cannot comprehend opposition to their worldview as anything other than hatred and bigotry. The most revealing aspect of her rant is how she projects every single failing of the modern left onto conservatives. She accuses them of hating America while supporting an ideology that views American history as fundamentally evil and American institutions as systemically oppressive. She accuses them of authoritarianism while supporting a political movement that uses every lever of state power to silence and punish dissent. She accuses them of not respecting laws while supporting a party that openly flouts immigration law, election law, and constitutional limits on government power. This projection isn't accidental, it's the core strategy of cultural Marxism. Take everything you're doing wrong and accuse your opponents of doing it. This serves two purposes. It deflects attention from your own authoritarian tendencies while preemptively delegitimizing any criticism of your behavior by framing it as hypocritical. The hate framework she employs is particularly insidious because it transforms every political disagreement into a moral emergency. You can't simply disagree with liberal policies. By opposing them, you're demonstrating hatred for entire groups of people. This makes compromise impossible and democracy unsustainable because it removes the possibility of good faith disagreement. When your political opponents aren't just wrong but actually evil, any tactic becomes justified in opposing them. The cat ownership comment is even more telling because it represents the broader conservative concern about declining birth rates, family formation, and social cohesion. When people replace human relationships and family responsibilities with pet ownership, it has implications for society's long-term stability and cultural continuity. But perhaps the most damning aspect of this entire rant is what it reveals about the liberal relationship with democracy itself. She's fundamentally angry that other people have different political preferences than she does. The idea that Americans might legitimately support policies she disagrees with is incomprehensible to her. This is the mindset that leads to viewing election losses as illegitimate, opposing viewpoints as disinformation, and political opponents as threats to democracy itself. This is what happens when an entire political movement is built on emotional reasoning rather than rational argument. When your worldview is constructed from feelings rather than facts, any challenge to it feels like a personal attack. When your identity is built around being morally superior to your political opponents, any evidence of their legitimacy becomes an existential threat. This woman, and millions like her, have been so thoroughly programmed by progressive ideology that they're incapable of genuine political discourse. They can't engage with conservative ideas because they've been trained to see them as manifestations of hatred rather than legitimate political positions. They can't acknowledge conservative concerns because doing so would require admitting that their own ideology might be wrong about fundamental issues. This is the end stage of cultural Marxism, a population so ideologically captured that they literally cannot process information that contradicts their programming. They've become political zombies, capable only of repeating approved talking points and having emotional meltdowns when reality intrudes on their carefully constructed delusions. The future of America depends on breaking through this ideological conditioning and restoring the possibility of rational political discourse. But as this video demonstrates, that's going to be far more difficult than most people realize. When half the population has been trained to view the other half as evil, democracy itself becomes impossible. And that may be exactly what the architects of this ideological system intended all along.